Here is an alliance of 32 nations with 3.5 million troops under arms guarding 1 billion people. And in more than 75 years, it has never once taken a vote. Not one. Every decision, from buying a radio to admitting a nation, must be unanimous. 32 countries, one voice, every time. And at its heart, a single sentence, maybe the most powerful sentence in modern history. An attack on one is an attack on all. This is NATO, and this is how it actually works. In April 1949 in Washington, 12 nations signed the North Atlantic Treaty. The United States, Canada, Britain, France, Italy, Portugal, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Europe was in ruins. The Cold War was freezing into place, and the logic was brutal and simple. NATO's first Secretary-General, a British general named Lord Ismay, put it in words the diplomats never would. The alliance existed, he said, to keep the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. History has a sense of humor. Within 6 years, West Germany was invited in, and its soldiers put on NATO uniforms. The alliance grew in waves. Greece and Turkey in 1952, Spain in the 80s. Then, after the Cold War ended, the Great Eastward Wave, Poland, the Baltics, and half of the old Warsaw Pact, the very alliance NATO was built against. And most recently, 2 famous neutrals came in from the cold: Finland in 2023, Sweden in 2024. 12 founders, 32 allies. So, how do 32 countries with 32 armies and 32 opinions decide anything? Around one table, the North Atlantic Council in Brussels, every ally, one seat from the United States to Iceland, which famously has no army at all. And here is the strange part. There are no votes. NATO decides everything by consensus. Often through a ritual called the silence procedure, a proposal is circulated with a deadline, and if no capital objects before the clock runs out, silence means yes. One objection from anyone, and it stops. Luxembourg can halt a superpower. Chairing that table sits the Secretary-General, NATO's civilian face. And here is the first great unwritten rule. The Secretary-General is always a European. A Briton first, then Belgians, Dutchmen, Italians, a German, a Spaniard, Danes, a Norwegian, never an American. Why? Because of the second unwritten rule, the military balance we're about to meet. Beside the Council sits the Military Committee, the chiefs of defense of every ally, turning political decisions into military advice. Now the part most people never see, the command structure. At the top sit 2 strategic commands. The first, Allied Command Operations, at a headquarters called SHAPE in Mons, Belgium. It runs every NATO operation on Earth. Its chief is the most powerful officer in the alliance, SACEUR, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe. And here is the deal that holds NATO together. SACEUR is always an American. Every single one, from Dwight Eisenhower in 1951 to today, a golden thread of American 4 stars. The logic: America brings the largest forces and the nuclear umbrella, so America commands the battle. That is also why the Secretary-General is always European. One side gets the political chair, the other the sword. And by tradition, SACEUR's deputy is British. The second strategic command surprises people. Allied Command Transformation, the alliance's future builder, sits not in Europe at all, but in Norfolk, Virginia. The only NATO headquarters in North America. And since 2009, by tradition, its commander is French. The price and the prize of France, rejoining NATO's command structure after 40 years of goalless distance. Below them, the operational tier, 3 joint force commands, Brunsum in the Netherlands, Naples in Italy, and Norfolk again, created in 2018 to guard the Atlantic sea lanes. And in 2026, the balance shifted. Europeans took the helm of all 3. Britain at Norfolk, Italy at Naples, Germany and Poland sharing Brunsum in rotation. Beneath those, the component commands, air power at Ramstein in Germany, land forces at Izmir in Turkey, and the maritime command at Northwood outside London. Look at that chart again. It is not an org chart. It is a treaty, written in generals. Here is what NATO is not. It is not an army. NATO owns almost no soldiers, no tanks, no fleets. When the alliance acts, nations lend their forces, and the machine's real job, on ordinary days, is making sure those forces fit together. That means standards. Thousands of agreements called STANAGs, covering everything: fuel nozzles, ammunition calibers, map symbols, how to write a radio message. You already know NATO's most successful product. You've used it. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. The phonetic alphabet, standardized for the alliance in the 1950s, now used by pilots, sailors, and call centers everywhere on Earth. Add to that the exercises, tens of thousands of troops from a dozen nations practicing until a Portuguese Marine, a Polish tank crew, and a Canadian pilot can operate as one force. And the money? NATO's common budget is surprisingly small. A few billion a year for headquarters, AWACS radar planes, and shared infrastructure. The real bill stays national. Each ally pledged to spend at least 2% of GDP on its own defense, a line that has defined alliance politics for a decade and is now being pushed higher still. And then there is the sentence. Article 5. An armed attack against one ally shall be considered an attack against them all. For 52 years, it was never used. It was written to shield Western Europe behind American power, and then it was invoked, once in all of history. Not for Europe. On September the 12th, 2001, the day after the attacks on New York and Washington, the Allies declared 9/11 an attack on all 30. Within weeks, NATO radar planes with multinational crews were flying patrols over American cities. The alliance built to defend Europe, defending America first. That is the quiet power of the machine. Not the wars it fights, but the ones that never start, because 32 flags stand behind one sentence. Article 4. The quieter sibling lets any worried ally summon the table for consultations. It has been used again and again. The promise, so far, only once. 12 nations in 1949, 32 today, on 2 continents, around 1 ocean. An American always holds the sword. A European always holds the chair. A Frenchman builds the future from Virginia. And a Briton stands deputy at the gate. No anthem you must sing. No vote ever taken. Just one table, one silence, and one sentence. That is how the alliance works.